What is up, guys? Hope you're doing well. I've got some vacuums here in the car with me, so hope you enjoy that view. But I want to share a testimony related to my upbringing, and it is about private school. Now, let me be clear, I'm not necessarily like the biggest rah-rah champion of private school. Everyone should go to private school. My kids are going to private school. I'm not talking about any of that, all right? I'm not trying to be prescriptive here. I'm just testifying today of some ways that God used my experiences in private school for my good. And there's a few of them. Okay, one, and so I was in private school, like preschool all the way through 12th grade. And, rocking uniforms and all that. St. Mark Lutheran through 8th grade, and then Houston Christian High School 9 through 12. So, a couple things. One, because I went to private school, I was able to do a lot more activities. Private school, generally speaking, it's not going to be quite as competitive athletically, for example, as a public school would be. And because of that, I was able to play lots of different sports, right? That I would have had to, maybe pick one by the time I got to high school or middle school, or pick two. But I was able to be super involved, lots of different sports, music, like academics, extracurricular academics, scouting. I was able to do a lot, experience a lot, and a lot of that is credit to me going to private school that would not have necessarily been as easily replicable in a public school setting. Also, some of the things I did, I wouldn't have even tried to do, even though I ended up enjoying them. Like, there's no way I would have played football at a public high school, having never played before in my life, like I did at Houston Christian. But I'm thankful that I played football, although I use the word play liberally. I was on the team, all right? Listen, I was on the team. Also, having ADHD, it's helpful to be able to do different things to continue to stoke interest, right? Instead of just having, here's one thing I have to just become a master at. Well, what if, come junior year, I'm not interested in that thing anymore? That's going to be burnout central for me. But at a private high school, it's just so easy to change course. Hey, I used to be into baseball, now I'm into basketball. Hey, I used to be into basketball, now I'm into soccer. That was elementary and middle. And then going to high school, hey, I used to hate cross country, now I'm going to dive into cross country. Hey, I used to focus on soccer, now I'm going to do football. Hey, I got hurt in football, I'm going to focus on being the chaplain of the orchestra, and making disciples in my discipleship class. Hey, senior year, let's do an ultimate frisbee team and let's start a rugby team. That sounds fun. I couldn't do that at a public school. All right, so you get the point. So helpful for me in terms of enjoyment, fulfillment, and also just protection for me having ADHD to avoid burnout. Similar to that is I've met great people. And I mean that in the sense of the extracurriculars. If there wasn't a generally supportive, encouraging atmosphere, it would have been hard to just try something new. If everyone there is just telling me that I suck, I'm not sure if I would have done that for too long. But in private school, people tell you suck, but they mean it in jest, and they don't actually want you to fail, which maybe in public school, usually people don't either. But hey, I met good people. Also, really great influences in my life. Some of my very best friends and closest friends, all of them growing up were from school. None of them were from any exclusive outside of school setting. And so I'm thankful for the people I met. And another aspect of this is the network. And if you grow up going to private school, you know what that means? That means all your friends, all your peers have parents that sent them to private school. You know what that means? They got connections, okay? Yes, there are some people on scholarship. Yes, there are also some bad apples. no doubt about it. I'm not saying everyone's a saint or anything like that, but the opportunities that come from the network are significant. You get to college and then 4 years later you're looking for a job. It's like, well, who might remember you is your best friend's dad, who y'all were in sports together for 4 years in high school and you made a good impression on him. Like, send him an email, see if you can get a job. That's going to be way easier than just throwing a resume at 1,000 different random things and hope someone calls you. And it's really an unfair advantage that I don't think is appreciated enough in the decision-making process of where do I send my kids, because you're paying not just for education, you're paying for the network. You're paying for the relational opportunity. Now, I personally have not feasted on that relational opportunity. I never lived in Houston again after high school. I haven't worked normal jobs, so if I did, then that network would be even more valuable to me. There's a lot of my classmates still live in Houston, and I still think highly of so many of them, and there would be more opportunities there. But even where I'm at, I've gotten a job through a high school connection, got to meet with even job experience, having client meetings, etc., with high school connections, whether now or back when I was at Northwestern, when I was raising support for mission trips and then raising support for my salary to plant the church in Arkansas. High school connections were probably 20% of my support base, and not necessarily their dads, but just them, people that are my age. But still, again, the people that are your age, if you take, you got 20 friends and they're all in private school, the likelihood that the average earnings of that 20, it's very likely that earning pool is greater than your 20 friends from a public school. Because most people in a private school are going to aspire to go to college. Most of them probably have parental pressure to get a corporate job and make a lot of money, because most of them, probably their parents really value money and really value the investment they made in their kid by sending them to private school. It's not all healthy dynamics, okay, by any means, but there's a network value to going to private school, and I have benefited from that, no doubt. And maybe I'll benefit more in the future than I have so far. I don't know. It's not like you're not trying to leverage things for your interest. It's just kind of weird. We're all people, right? I'm just saying, if you know good people that are well networked and well meaning people, then that's good for you, right? You want to know those people, and you want to be one of those people, so then those people want to know you too. All right, moving on. Maybe the last one, I might be forgetting one, but one thing I wanted to mention is just the education that I received. Again, at the time, I didn't think man, I'm getting such a great education. But I have been recently digging through high school boxes of papers that my parents dropped off at my house this summer. And I've just been, recycling them all, but kind of thumbing through it as I toss it. And some of these assignments, I'm like, dang, I was doing that in 8th grade or 9th grade or whatever. Some of this stuff is kind of impressive, and not the work that I did was impressive, but the material that my teachers put in front of me was legit, and the ways they graded my papers, harsh, legit, and that made me better, right? And I realized that going to college, when, okay, I'm going to Texas A&M, and generally speaking, it's a pretty well thought of institution academically, not an Ivy Leaguer by any means, but it's a good amount of high school tryhards. There's not that many that are just total bums that end up at A&M. Not that anyone is a real bum, but some people within the context of school. That's just not what you're meant to do, you know. But A&M, it's like, it's some people that are trying. A lot of them are paying their way through. A lot of them are first gen college students, you know. There's a lot of work ethic, a lot of family values, etc. So that said, I go to my English class, just standard core curriculum, and my English professor is like recruiting me to switch my major to English. And I'm like, you don't understand. English is my worst subject. You know, like, my English teachers in high school just shredded me all the time. All the time. And in middle school too. And I hate reading, you know, like, a lot. At least I did, you know. But in this college setting, they're like, you know, just not infatuated, but, you know, struck by my potential in this area, you know. And you go to your communications class and okay, I got to give a presentation in front of everyone and whatever. And I was not a great presenter. You know, listening to that presentation, I'm like, it hurts my ears because I was so bad. But the confidence wise and competency to do it is like, yeah, no problem. Make a presentation. Like, I already know, like, don't put too many words on the slides. Definitely don't read the slides. Use them as visual aids, but not distractions from people focusing on you. Like, you know, how to write, you know, just like theme sentences and supporting points, and how to diagram a sentence, and of course math and finance and that whole side of everything. Like it showed when I got to college that, like, dang, study habits wise, like, how do you study efficiently, how do you get more done in less time, etc. Like, I for sure had a leg up. And similarly, going to high school, like, you know, growing up at St. Mark, you don't think it's so challenging, so hard, so tough. You're just doing what you do, whatever. Parents are like, hey, get all A's, got it. Like, yes, ma'am. So then you get to high school, and again, it's like, oh, I know some stuff that some people are asking questions about, you know, which probably most people experience. So again, I'm not trying to compare private school to public school. I'm just trying to testify that, like, I received a good education, and it helped me. It's helped me in the workplace. Like things I've learned from age 17 and younger are still come up and still help me. And sometimes my wife is like, how do you know that? You know, or someone else is just like, you know, kind of not mind blown, but, you know, noticed something that I learned or something, you know. And it's not because I'm just wicked intelligent, although I'm more intelligent than the most average of the average, but I'm not like way up there by any means. At least I'm pretty sure. I've never done an IQ test. Maybe I would just slay that thing. Probably wouldn't, but hey, if I never take a test, then you can't tell me that I for sure would. There it is. There it is. Okay. One other aspect of private school that I did want to mention, this is the last one actually, is as it relates to my faith. And this is multifaceted, okay? On one hand, the obvious hand, I had Bible class all through growing up. Like, I learned a lot. I had weekly chapel services all growing up. The amount of material that I digested, or at least was in a room while it was being presented, as it relates to Christianity, is like a lot, you know, a lot. And I can still lean on some of that. Like the apologetics class that I took in high school, I still lean on that. I haven't had to dive into apologetics since then because it was so persuasive and compelling, and I haven't heard any new arguments. You know, it's like, for that box to be checked off at 15 years old, that, like, I know that Christianity is a legitimate religion, and I know that Jesus died and rose from the grave. Like, I know that the Bible is trustworthy. Like, I can't pay for that, right? Like, what's the price on that if we're talking about eternity on the line? You know, crazy. And like songs that I know, worship songs that maybe I wasn't into it as a kid, but now I'm singing it as an adult, and I'm like, man, I'm so thankful I was surrounded by this. Or, you know, memorizing the Apostles' Creed, the Lord's Prayer, and, you know, reciting these different things. Obviously, that dives into my church experience also, but you know, a lot of Christian education that I can't possibly quantify the value that it's had in my life. And again, it is noticeable compared to someone that did not grow up in private school, or especially if they didn't grow up in church. It's like, yeah, there is 17 years of education that I have not retained all of it by any means. I probably haven't retained 5% of it. But even 2% of 17 years of daily education on a subject, yeah, there are things that it's like you've got some history with, or you understand. And I'm thankful I don't have to be introduced to it for the first time as a 28-year-old, or next week a 29-year-old. Whoa, let's go! Let's go, guys. The other angle of the Christian benefit is a little bit more of a discouraging angle, but it's just the reality that not every single kid that goes to a private school is trying to follow Jesus. You know, a lot of them are there because their parents make them go there, because their parents think that it's good for them, or because they got kicked out of their public school. Honestly, no cap, okay? Like the like friends from middle school who not long afterwards are arrested, you know, like friends in high school that are doing hard hallucinogens, you know, or just like, and that's like, okay, those are some examples, but just take the average person, and like the average is very it's hard to like, everyone's their own person, you know, but from my idealistic, zealous, perfectionist self as a 15-year-old, I felt super underwhelmed by the level of devotion to Christianity that was expressed amongst the student body. 100%. So underwhelmed. Compared to if I had gone to a public school, the difference between someone that's like totally living for the world and someone that identifies as a Christian, even if they are a very complacent Christian, the difference in these lifestyles would probably be noticeable enough to where the Christian option would have sufficed for me. Like I would have noticed the difference, and I would have had more appreciation for those choices. Whereas, and so I could have very well been very complacent myself, because it's certainly much more inspiring than the alternative, you know? But at the school that I was at, the complacency was not looked at favorably by me. It was like, there's got to be something more, you know? And getting in that environment of some lukewarm Christianity, and we're just underdeveloped, you know, we're teenagers, or we're middle schoolers or elementary schoolers, you know, like there's not a lot of personal responsibility at that point in our life. And that's not what everyone's trying to do as a 15-year-old, you know, is make decisions for the rest of their life right now. So again, I was judgmental, I was critical, I had lots of problems. But what I'm saying is, God used my frustrations with the uninspiring Christian environment to push me into a deeper pursuit and a higher calling and a just greater saturation with the Word of God and the lifestyle of Christianity and what it means to know Jesus, to follow Jesus. Like I used anger with the status quo, mundane Christianity to fuel me into a greater pursuit, and I'm thankful for that, right? Like if everyone, if again, I talked about the public school scenario that might have tricked me into being a very complacent believer and feeling like I'm good. I'm not like that, not like this other guy who's picking fights all the time or whatever. But also, if I had gone to a private high school where everyone is on fire for God, which that school does not really exist, because again, you're 15 years old, there's only so much ownership you can have at that point. But if everyone was that, then I might have been that as a product of my environment, but not necessarily as deeply from a place of personal conviction and choice and desire. And that just environmental nurturing could very well wear out. You get to college, you graduate college, you're becoming your own adult, you're leading your own family. Like that was my high school experience, and that's so familiar, but it would be hard to separate what's true, what's real versus what was the circumstances I was surrounded by. And so again, I'm thankful for that aspect of being a private school student as well. And that I was able to see through the surface to know that there was more to this walk of life that we're on as believers. So those are some ways, guys, that God's used private school for my good. I just want to testify. Thank you, God, for my schooling. Also, I was never abused or just never had a terrible thing related to my schooling or a classmate or a teacher. I was safe. And I probably would have been safe in a public school too, but who knows? I'm a pretty small person. Pretty pequeño. So, thankful for God's protection. All right. That's all I got for y'all today. Life is worship. God is love.